Welcome back to a front-end web development class, and today in our JavaScript course we are going to continue from where we stopped. This is where we stop. We stop at array method, and we are going to continue from there, and we are going to look at two more array methods, and we are still going to be looking at array methods, but let us look at two. Then we'll look at destructuring array, for off loop, and if we have time we can look into function. Alright, so I'm going to create another folder. So let me duplicate this. I'm going to paste it in JavaScript class. So yeah, I'm going to rename it. So I'm going to call this class 3. So I don't think I need all of this again. So in class 3, alright, so let me just alright, so this is what we have. So what I'm going to do is, look at all the things that we did. So I'm just going to clear this off. Then we will start. We'll look at other array methods, such as I'm going to look at slice and splice. Then afterwards we're going to look at destructuring array. Then also we're going to look at for off loop. So we're going to look at these three things today. So let's start with slice. We have more than 30 methods of array, and I told you in the last class that methods are actions that we perform on arrays, or that we perform on data types. I explained that in our last class. So let us look at splice. What exactly is splice? So I have a definition. I have an example here. So splice method can be used to create a copy of an array or return a portion of an array. It is important to note that the slice method does not alter, meaning that it does not change the original array, but instead it creates a shallow copy. I repeat that the slice method can be used to create a copy of an array, or it can be used to return a portion of an array. It is important to note that the slice method does not change the original array, but instead it creates a shallow copy, and we are going to look at that in practical now. So slice is used to create a shallow copy, and also it is used to return a portion of an array. So let's say, for example, we have this array. Let's say const. We have name list. So let's say we have Matthew. We have we have James, we have Luke, we have Peter, we have Andrew, we have Judas. So we have which other one again? We have Martha. Let's list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's list one more. Then we have Mary. So let's save this. So now the first definition or explanation is that it says here that the slice method can be used to create a copy of an array. So in this case now, let's say for example, I want to create a copy of this array, a shallow copy actually. I want to create a copy of this array. Like I want to have a duplicate of this array. It is very simple. What I'm going to do is this. Is just to say const name list, then copy. I can just do copy. Then I can do something like name list dot what dot slice, like this. So this will give me what? A copy of this array. So let us console the log these arrays. Now we have name list, and also let's duplicate this. So we have name list copy. So now you see what I'm talking about. If you view this, can you see the same thing? The same thing. There's an original array. This one is the original array, while this one is the copied array. So we use the slice method to what? To copy the what? This original array. So it is used to copy an array, and it is also used to get a portion of an array. Did you get it now? So this is the first one here from our definition. It is used to create a copy of an array. So let's do it here. Copy of an array. Copy an array. Then the other part that says that it is also used to return a portion of an array. So this will lead me to this part that says, then this will take me to the starter parameter and all that. Because let's say for example, you want to get a portion of an array. Let's say you want to get Peter, Andrew, and Judas alone. You just want to get Peter, Andrew, and Judas alone, or you just want to get any part of this array into a new array. If you want to get any part of this array into a new array, let's say for example, you just want Matthew and James into a new array, or you want Matthew, James, Luke into a new array, or you want anything, you want any part of this early array into a new array, then we can use what? Slice. So the slice receives two parameters that are optional. The slice receives two parameters that are optional. So the first is the start parameter, and the second is the end parameter. So in this case, the start parameter is optional, but if the start parameter is not, if we do not give it a start value or a start position, then the default is going to be 0. Are you with me? The default is going to be 0. Then it can also receive negative numbers, which selects from the end of the array. So let's say for example, I have something like this. Let's say for example, I want to console the log slice, and I want to use the starter value. Now I want to add the value. I told you that that the starter parameter is optional, but if you want to add it, so let's say for example you want to get James, you want to get a portion of an array from this array starting with what? James. So you know that the position of James is what? 1, because array is 0 base or is 0 index. So the position of James is what? 1. You are going to say you are starting from what? 1, like this. Now if you do not specify the end parameter, which is optional, if you do not specify the end parameter, then the default end parameter is going to be what? The last element. Are you with me? It's going to be what? The last element. So let's say for example now that we specify what? The start parameter, which is we give it a value of what? 1. So it means that we are starting from what? James. And if we do not add the end parameter, it means that by default it's going to get the last element. So if we save this now and we come here, look at what we have. The slice is not defined. But okay, sorry, I'm supposed to attach this to the name list. So I'll say name list dot what? Slice, then 1. So now look at what we have. Can you see? Now I have what? A new array that is starting with what? James. Can you see? But if I specify the end parameter, let's say I want to get James, Luke, and Peter. So for me to do that, I have to specify what? The end parameter. So to specify the end parameter, since I'm getting 3 values out of this original value, since I'm getting 3 elements out of this original array, and I want to specify my what? End parameter, this is what I'm going to do. I'm saying that I want to start at position 1, index 1, and I want to end at what? Index what? 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. If I do 3 for instance, now I want to show you something. If I do 3 and we save, I will come here. Can you see we only have James and Luke? Why? But we want James, Luke, and what? Peter. The reason is because we had to what? Increase it to what? 4. So it means that it can be able to take what? 3 elements out of it. So the way I see it is like this. If you want to get, like for example now we are trying to get 3 elements out of the original array here, and for us to get that, and we are starting from James, so the value of our starter parameter is what? 1. I want to get 3 elements out of this original array. So what we are going to do is that we are going to specify a value that is going to be higher, that's going to be +1 of the index of the last element that is part of the elements that we want to extract. So in this case now we say 1 then 4. So it's just like saying 4 minus 1 is equals to what? 3. So it means that we are getting what? 3 elements out of this. So if we save this now, look at what we have now. We have James, Luke, and what? Peter. So the last index, this last index here, which is 4th index, is not what? Included. So that is what it simply means. So can you see this now? And also the slice can also receive what? A negative value too. So let's say for example we want to console the log name list dot slice, then let's say -1, name list dot slice -1. But let me show you this. It says that it receives what? Negative number. So it selects from the end. So once you have a negative number, for instance, now we specify a negative number. So what it's going to do is it's going to select the last element of what? Of the array. So if you save this now, look at what we have coming. Okay, I'm missing this square bracket there. So can you see it's giving us the last element? So when you specify a negative value, it's going to give you what if you specify negative value, it's going to it's going to start from the last end of what of the elements of the array. So so now in this case we are saying -1, so it means that it's going to get what the last element. Now remember, in the last class I told you that if you want to get okay, let's leave that because that one, because in this case now we are just getting an array, so let's leave that. So we have this which is Mary, but if we specify -2 for instance, now what is going to give us? It's going to give us the last two elements. Can you see? That's that. So in the case whereby we specify we want to specify two negative value, and please mind you, whenever you are specifying or you are specifying a start value and an end value, ensure that the end value is higher than the start value, because if it is not, you are not going to get anything. So now in this case, now let's say I want to get -1. Let's say for example this is my start value. I want to get Peter. Let's say I want to get Peter to this one. So we are going to say -4, then -1. Look at what we are going to get. Can you see? Martha, Judas, and Andrew. And let me show you. Now -4 is -1, -2, -3, and -4. So we are starting from -4, and we want to end at what? -1. So it means that it's just going to get these three elements for us. Can you see? It's going to get these three elements for us, excluding this last element. So that is what it means. So you can play around it, work with it. And there's also another method that I want to teach you, I think, which is toString, if I'm not mistaken. toString. So let's say for example console the log. Let me first of all do it, then I explain it to you. toString. So let's save. All right, good. So what this simply means is this. toString means that you want to you are trying to convert an array into what? A string. So that is what it means. Converting an array into what? A string. Converting an array into a string. That is what it simply means. You are trying to convert an array into what? A string. So you are saying that for you to convert an array to a string, first of all, you need the variable name. You need the variable, which is name list, then dot what? toString. So this will convert it to what? To a string. So can you see now that it is now a string? It is no longer what? An array. So it is separated by what? A comma. It is separated by a comma. So that is that. So in this case whereby we want to get the last element of the array, let's say this one now. Let's say we want to get the last element of the array. Now, but in this case, we don't want it to be in an array. We don't want it to be in an array. So what we are going to do is, we are going to now say, for us to be able to remove this Mary that is inside an array, what are we going to do? We are going to convert it to what? To a string. So to do that, we can chain methods together actually. Are you with me? We can chain what? Methods together, meaning that we can chain one method to another method. So in this case now, this is what we are going to do. Name list or slice. We want to get the last element, then we want to what? Chain it and put what? toString here. So this is what we are going to have. Can you see? Mary. Very simple. So this one here is this particular one here is similar to getting the last element of an array like this. I don't know if you still remember that. Name list dot length, then dot length minus 1. Yes, I'm correct. Name list. Okay, sorry. It's supposed to be in a bracket, in a square bracket. It's supposed to be in a square bracket. So can you see Mary? So this is the same thing with this. So these two, they are the same. Can you see? So to get the last element of an array, to get the last element of an array, so you can either use any of this method. Can you see? You can either use any of this method. Then there's another method I also want to show you. There's another method that I want to show you, which is called the join. So join also converts an array into a string. So the join method is similar to string method, but it's just that the difference is you can add a separator, because in this case, when we use the string method to convert this array into a string, notice what we have. We have what? The elements are squashed together, and it is separated by this delimiter or a separator, which is called this separator here, which is the comma. So it is called separator or a delimiter. So it is this command that we use to separate these elements. But we are limited, because what if we want to add a separator on our own? Maybe we want to separate the elements. We want to separate the elements by a space character, or want to use any of the characters to be able to separate the elements of the array. So what are we going to use? We are going to use join, because join actually affords us the flexibility to be able to specify separator or a delimiter to our array when we are converting it to a string, unlike the toString method. So in this case now, I'm going to console the log. Name list dot join. Now this join, there I'm going to now specify a separator. I'm going to specify what? A separator. Now, but if the separator is omitted, let's say for example we do not add a separator to this, so by default the comma is going to be the separator by default. Comma is going to be the separator by default. Now look at what we have. Can you see? It's the same thing as this, but in this case we can add a separator. Let me just duplicate this. We can add a separator and say, okay, to add a separator, let's put it in a quote. Then we can say we want a dash to be the separator. Now look at what we have. Can you see? Dash. And we can say we want a space character to be the word separator. Can do something like this, space character. Can you see? Space. So you can pass anything as a separator of that string. You can pass anything. So that is that about join. Then the next thing I also want to teach you is splice. What is splice? What is splice? Now let us look at our definition here. Splice is different from slice. Please take note of that. Slice is used to create a copy of an array and to also return a portion of an array. Maybe you want to cut out a portion of an array from an original array. So you can use slice, and it does not mutate or change the original array. So, but for slice is used to add and to remove. It is used to add and or to remove array elements, and it overwrites the original array, meaning it changes the original array. And this is the syntax for splice. Splice, then these are the parameters that are inside of the parentheses of the splice. We have what the index. This index simply means that the position where you want to what add an element, or where you want to what remove what an element. Are you with me? So the index is required. Please take note. The index is required. So the index means the position where you want to remove an item from an array, or where you want to what add an item to an array. Then if you specify a negative value, it defines the position from the end of the array. Of course, you understand now that when you use a negative value, it means that you are starting from the end of the array. So that is that. So let's come here. Let us start with splice. So let's start with let's say splice. Okay, sorry. Let's say name list dot splice. First of all, let us remove. We want to remove elements. You know, if you remember, I taught you methods in an array, how to add elements and how to remove elements. But what I showed you there was I used to add elements, I used on shift and push. And this method I used to add elements at the start and at the end of an array. But what if you want to add an element at any position in the index? Then you need splice. What if you want to remove an element in any position in the index? Then you need what? Splice. So do you get that now? So splice actually gives us the flexibility to be able to remove elements in any position in the array. So let us remove this. So first of all, we are going to specify the array here. So we say, okay, we want to start at position 3. Okay, this is 0, 1, 2. Let's say we want to specify at position 2. Right? We want to start at position 2. Then, this case, delete count. Delete count simply means how many items do you want to remove. That is the next parameter. How many items do you want to remove? And this parameter, it is optional, meaning that if you don't want to remove any items, you can just add 0. You can just add what is 0 to it. So do you get it now? So, but in this case, we want to remove items. So we say we want to remove like 2 items from index 2. So from index 2 is 0, 1, 2. We want to remove what 2 items. So we are going to be removing Luke and what Peter. So if you console.log the original array now. Now what if you console.log the original array, which is what name list, you are going to see what we are going to have. Now you can see that Luke and Peter has been removed from the original array. So this goes to explain that splice overwrites the original array, meaning that it changes or mutates the original word array. Please take note of that. It's very, very important. It mutates the original array. So in this case now, we removed what Luke and Peter, and when we console.log the original array, we notice that 2 elements have been removed from what the array. Okay, all right. So let us add element now. Elements to the array. Elements to the array. So we are going to say, okay, name list dot splice. Name list dot splice. Let's say now, at what position do we want to add this element? Because if you come here now, we now have 6 elements in this array now. So at what position do we want to add this element? I can say I want to add it at position 0. I want to add it at any position. So let me just pick position 2, for instance. Let me pick position 2, or let me pick position 3. No, position 2 is 0, 1, 2. Let me pick position 2. So I'm going to say position 2. Now, the second parameter states that how many elements do you want to remove? But in this case, we don't want to remove any element. So I'm just going to add what is 0. Then, comma. Then, in this case, it says, then this other item, so that's the last index. That's the last parameter in the splice, which is items to add. It is optional too. It means how many you have to specify the items that you want to add. So now in this case, since I'm adding elements to the array, so I'm going to specify the items that I want to add. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to add Luke, and I want to also add what? Peter. Now, if you console the log, let me just duplicate it. So if you console the log name list, look at what we have. Can you see Matthew, James, Luke, Peter, just like the original array? Can you see? We added it back. So that's that. We can also add and remove elements. We can also add and remove elements together at the same time, simultaneously. So in this case, I'm going to say name list dot splice. So let's say I want to start at position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to start at position 4. That's okay. Position 4. How many items do I want to remove? I want to remove 2 items, but I want to add Joshua and Elisha. Now see, I'm starting at index 4. Is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So Andrew is index 4. And I state that I want to remove 2 items. So I'm removing Andrew and Judas. But I am replacing them at that same position 4 with what? 2 elements, Joshua and what? Elisha. I can actually replace them with more than 2 items. I can do 3, I can do 1, I can do 5, depending on what you want. So now I'm going to duplicate this and bring it here. So let us see what we have now. Can you see that Andrew and Jacob is no longer there? Now we now have what? Joshua and what? Elisha. Very simple. So you can see how powerful splice is. So you can use splice to remove element, you can use splice to add element, and you can use splice to add and to what? Remove elements at the same time. So that is that about splice. So we have looked at 4 methods now: slice, to string, join, and what? Splice. 4 methods. And the previous methods that we looked at length, pop, push, unshift, shift. So looked at 5 methods plus 4 now, making it what? 9. So as we proceed into this JavaScript course, we are going to look at other methods, other advanced methods, such as from, find index of, filter, for each, map, reduce, flat map, many. We have this method, what they call it now, reverse, sort, many methods that we can actually use. So we are going to be looking at them one after the other. So let us look at destructuring in array, destructuring array. And I'm showing you this so that you can, I'm explaining this. I'm not supposed to explain this in the early stage of JavaScript course, but I'm doing it for the purpose of the next topic I want to introduce to you. So what is destructuring? What is destructuring in JavaScript? Now let us look at the meaning. Destructuring is a JavaScript expression that makes it possible to unpack values from arrays or properties from objects into distinctive variables. That is, we can extract data from arrays and objects and assign them to what variable. Now let me show you the advantage of what destructuring. Now in our what they call it now, in this okay, let me just use a new array. So I can call this num list number. I can say 34, 12, 60, 67, 23, then let's just use a 9. So now, before destructuring was introduced or came in 2016, for you to be able to access any data or to be able to access an element of an array, you have to do it like this: console.log num, then you have to specify the elements that you want to get. So you can say 2 like this. So do you get it now? But with the help of destructuring, let us look at the definition again. It says destructuring is a JavaScript expression that makes it possible to unpack values from what array. Please take note of that. It helps us to be able to unpack. To destructure means to help us to be able to unpack values from an array into distinctive variables. So let's say in this case now, to use destructuring, I can do something like this: const, then an array equals to what? Num. Mind you, num is a variable that we assign this array into. So if you are saying num, you are actually referring to this variable. So now we don't have this array syntax, this square bracket, at the left side of this statement or of this expression. So now this is where we are going to now do the destructuring, meaning the unpacking of the values of an array. So let's say, for example, I want to unpack one value. So I can give it a variable name. I can say num1 like this, and I save num1 and I save. So if I console.log num1, look at what we are going to get. Just watch. Can you see 34? So can you see? So what we did is we assign this first variable, this first value, to this variable num. So that is what it means: unpacking the values of an array by assigning them to a distinctive variable. Please take note of that word, distinctive word variable. So it's very important. So look at what we have here: num1. So we can do the same thing to num2. Can you see? If we do num2 and we console.log both of them, num2 like this, we are going to have the first value and the second value. So look at what we have: 34 and what? 12. But what if you want to get the first value, I want to skip the second value to get the third value? What are you going to do? Because if you want to play smart and say, okay, I'm going to give this num3, and let us see what we are going to have. Num3, and let's see, you are still going to get what? You are still going to get this same value, the first and the second value. But so it doesn't work like this. We cannot outsmart what our JavaScript. So we have to follow the predefined way of doing things as stated by JavaScript. So for us to be able to, let's say, get this first value and get this third value, so it means that we are skipping this second value. So for us to be able to do that is this. It is very simple. So after you have given a distinctive variable name for this first value, so for you to be able to get the third value, you have to what? Skip the second value and you have to specify it here. So to do that, you're going to press space, then comma, then num2, for example now. So now look at what we are going to get. Can you see 34 and 16? So we skipped what? 12. Why? Because we did something like this. So you can also do the same thing too. You can skip, if you want to get 34 and 67, just skip 12 and 16 by doing it like this. Space, comma. Can you see? You will get your 67. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And also, we can also destructure nested array. Are you with me? We can destructure what? Nested array. We can destructure nested array. So let's say, for example, we have this array called nest array. So we have let's say what am I going to call it now? Okay, let's still use numbers. We can use anything. We can use a string, but let's still use numbers. Let's use numbers. So we're going to have 2, 4, then another array, 5, and what, 7. So you can see that we are having an array inside of arrays. Array inside of what? Array. Please take note. We are having what? Array inside of array. So how can we destructure this now? How can we destructure this second level array? It is very simple. Just do something like this, const. Now, we want to destructure the array. So let's say, for example, we start with A and B, then equals to nested array. We save, so we console the log. Let's console the log of A and B, for example. And if we save, can you see 2, 4? So if we had C, for example, look at what it's going to give us. If we add C, for example, look at what it's going to give us. Can you see? It's giving us 2, 4 plus the nested array. So what does it mean? Because since we have a nested array and it is one level deep, meaning that we have A, B. So what we just did here is, for this first level array, we have been able to unpack these two values by assigning it to a distinct variable A and B. Then this C here is representing what? This second array. And we have not destructured the second array, because you can see it here. So for us to destructure the second array, what we are going to do is we are going to do it like this: array, then C. Now look at what we are going to get now. Can you see? 2, 4, 5. Very simple. So I can do the same thing, D, and paste D here, and do D here. So we have been able to destructure this array. So no matter the level of the nesting of the array, we can destructure it. Let us do one more. Const array nesting array. Let's do 2. So equals, can do 4, 10, then another nested array, 23, 13, 16, then another nested array, can do 80 and what? 73. If we save this now, so you can see that we have nested arrays. So this is 2 level deep. This is 2 level deep. An array that is inside of the array This one is inside the so it is 2 level deep. So if we want to destructure this now, const. If we want to destructure this, it's very simple. So please, since that you have used A, B, C, D, we cannot use A, B, C, D again here because we declare this variable with a const, so we cannot use it here as A, B, C, D. We have to use a different value. So we can say E, A, B, C, D, E, F, then comma, E, F, then G, H, S, O, K, then we destructure again, then L and M. Can you see? That's equals to nested array 2. So if we console the log all of this now, we have E, F, G, H, K, L, and what F. If we save this, look at what we have. Can you see? So no matter the layer of the nesting, you can destructure it. No matter the layer of the nesting, you can what? Destructure it. So the next that I want to introduce to you is what? The for off loop. The for off what? Loop. Very fantastic. The for off loop. So let me show you. So the for off loop is a JavaScript, the for off loop in JavaScript. So the for off loop statement loops through the value of an iterable object. So for off loop statements loop through the values of an iterable object. You know, if you remember, I told you that we have different types of loop. We started with for loop, and I showed you that we also have while loop, do while loop, and we have for off loop, for in loop, for each loop. We have a lot, many. So, and we are going to be looking at them one after the other. So, but I want you to go and read on while loop and do while loop. Do you get it now? So for the for off loop, it is used to loop through the values of an iterable object. You may want to ask, what does an iterable object looks like? So let's read. Let's read on. It says it lets you loop over iterable data such as array, strings, map, set, node list, and more. You will understand this node list when we enter into DOM, which is called Document Object Model. So, what is iterable? Iterable is an object which can be looped over or iterated over with the help of a for loop. I repeat, iterables is an object which can be looped over or iterated over with the help of a for loop. So iterables are objects, so it can be array, it can be string, it can be map, it can be set, it can be what? Node list. So do you get now? Even object too as well. So all these, they are called what? Iterables. They are called what? Iterables. So let us look at for loop. For off loop. So this is how for off loop works. So let's say, for example, I want to loop over this name list. I want to loop over the name list. So this is what we are going to have for, then we'll say let. You can either use let or you can use const in this case. So you can say let name of name list. Do you get it now? Name of name list. So you can console the log name. So do you get it now? So now this is what it means. This is what it means. This name here is the elements, and this name list is the what? The iterable. So the iterable that we're looking at here is what? An array. So this name here is trying to say, it means the elements that is inside of what? This name list. So instead of using the for loop by saying, okay, you need what? An initializer. You want to set the count to maybe, if an initializer, you want to set the initializer to what is 0, or the initial value to 0, then you want to check for condition as long as so is less than so, then the increment value. You don't have to do that in what? For off loop. So so it is being done behind the scene. So I see for off loop as a synthetic sugar of what? For loop. So synthetic sugar is like it means a concise way of doing things. So this is like a concise way of the for loop. So all the conditions and all of that, they are done behind the scene. So what you are just to do, how am I going to put it now? So for the for off loop, all you just have to do is, this is the syntax. Let name, it can either be const or let. So let name, the reason why I'm using name here, so we want it to be descriptive of the kind of data that we want to get from what? The name list. And you know that the name list is a collection of names. So that's why we have to use what? Name here. So this name here is like a variable of all the elements that is inside of what? This name list. So if you save this now, look at what we have. Matthew, James, Luke, Peter, Joshua, Elisha, Matthew, and what? Mary. So that is what we have here. Can you see? Very simple. Very, very, very simple. But in the case whereby I don't just want to get the elements in this array, I also want to get the index of each of the elements in the array alongside with the elements. Then how can we do that? Because for off loop only give us the actual elements or value of an array. We cannot get the index, but with for loop we can get the index at the same time with what? The for off loop. Look at what I'm talking about here. For using for loop now, you can say let I equals to 0, and okay, have I showed you how to loop over an array? I don't think so. Okay, let me show you that now. So I've shown you this for off loop. So we use this for off loop to loop over what? The array. But I also want to show you how to use for loop to loop over what? An array. So we say let I be equals to what? 0. That is what? The starter value. The reason why we are using is 0, it is because the value or the index of the element of an array is what? Is 0. So we are saying that we want to start from 0 so that we can be able to get what? The first element of the array. Please take note of that, it's very important. The reason why we set the initial value of this for loop to be 0 is so that we can be able to get what? The first element when we use the for loop to loop over what? The array. And the array that we are looking at here is what? The name list. So we say, then the condition is going to be, we want I to be what? Less than, now name list dot what? Length. Dot length. Then we want I to be what? Plus plus. So that is what it means. Name list dot length. So if for example we want to, let me place this. If for example we want to loop over this array, I want to be able to get all the elements of the array one after the other. It is very simple. So we say we are starting from what? The initial value we are starting from what? Is 0. And we want to keep getting the elements of the array until we get to this last element. And the condition is going to be, we want I to be less than the array dot length, and you know that the array dot length talks about the total elements that is inside of the array. And in this case now, the total element that is inside of the array is what? 8. But the last index or the last element of the array, the index is what? 7. So what we are trying to say is this, that we want to get the elements of the array, all the elements of the array, and we want the condition to be I less than name list dot length. So it keeps getting the elements of the array. So let's say, for example, now when we say, so once the loop starts at first, it's going to get Matthew, then it increases its value to 1. So it's going to say, is 1 less than the length of the array, which is 8? Yes. It's going to get James. It's going to increase to 2. Is 2 less than the element of the array, which is 8? It's going to it is true. So it's going to get what? Luke. It's going to output Luke. So it is going to increase its value again to 3. Is 3 less than the length of the array? Yes. So it's going to output Peter. So it's going to increase to 4. Is 4 less than the element of the array, the length of the array? Yes. It's going to output Joshua. So it's going to increase to 5. It checks for the condition. It's going to increase to 6. It checks for the condition. It's going to increase to 7, which is the last index. It's going to check for the condition. Then it's going to increase to 8. So 8 is not less than what? 8. So the length of the array is not less than the length of the array. So it's going to be what? False. So that is when it's going to terminate the loop. So now this, in this case, so this is what we are going to do. Console.log. Because if we say console.log I, what we are getting is what? The count is 0 to what? 7. That is the index of what? The array. But we don't need the count. We want to use the count to be able to get the elements of the array. So in order for us to do that, we are going to say name list at position what? I. So at position I, so the varying value of I, that is what we are going to use as that's what we are going to use to be able to access or get all the elements of the array. And I don't think this one is new to you, because for you to be able to get the elements of the array, you need to what? The variable which the array is stored in, then this square bracket, then you specify what? The position of the elements that you want to get. But in this case, we want to get all the elements, and we know that this I consists of a varying value. So it consists of 0 to 7. So as it loops, it's going to be giving us what? Different elements of the array. Can you see it? Let me comment this. So can you see we have Matthew, James down to what? Mary. So I can also get the index too. So I can just do something like this. Let me do a backtick. So I'm just going to do something like this. Index is going to be so I'm going to put it I. You know, it's a variable now. So and index I, comma, then now do name, then do this side of this. So can you see? Now see what we have. Index 0, name is Matthew. Index 1, name is James. Can you see? Blah, 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 blah. It is very simple. So if you want the first index to be 1, okay, let's leave that. Let's not compound our head. So this is how it is. Can you see? We are able to get both the index of the elements of the array and what? The elements of the array using what? For loop. But in the case of for off loop, I can only get what? The elements of the array. Can you see? I can only get the elements of the array. I can't get the index. So for me to be able to get the index, there's a method that is called what? Entry method. So this entry method creates an array iterable and then iterates over the key value pair. This is what it means here. You will understand key value pair extensively very well once we move to what object. But this is what I want to show you. Let me just take this up here. Let me cut it, paste it here. So in this case, if I console the log okay, let me duplicate this, comment this. Before I do that, let me see something. Console the log name list dot entries. Let's see what we have. Okay. All right. So now, this is what we are going to do. Name list dot entries. Let me do it here. Okay. It can't work here. So now watch. Name list dot entries. So in this case, for the for loop, I was able to get the index and what the elements. But in the case of for off loop, I can't get the index or the elements, though I can get the elements. But for me to be able to get both the index, that means the position of the elements, and the value of the element itself, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come here. So the name of the array, which is called name list, I'm going to say dot entry like this. Then here, let me console the log. Let me console the log name now. Console the log name, and you will see what I'm talking. You see what I'm talking about now. Now, can you see that we now have the name now with its what index? Can you see they are all inside what an array? 0, Matthew, 1, James, 2, Luke, and all that. Can you see now that we now have both what the index and what the elements of that index in an array with the help of what entry method. So we just attach the entry method to what to the array. So that is that. But in this case, this is not what we want. We want to be able to have both. We want to be able to have it in a word, just like the way we have it here. Let me do it like this. Just like the way we have it here. Can you see name like this? We want to have it like that here. So this brings me to destructuring, just like the way I explained the structuring earlier. So we are going to destructure this. So, and you know that this name now is an array that consists of what? An index and the value of the elements of that index. So what we are going to do, we are going to destructure it. Are you with me? We are going to what? Destructure the array. We can do it here. We can say, okay, we can say const, we can say key, or we can say, okay, let's do index and what? Value. That's value equals to what? Name. So we are giving it a distinctive what? Variable. Distinctive variable. So this name now, we are trying to unpack the values that is inside of the name variable. This name is an array, and we are trying to unpack the values that is inside of it. And the values that is inside of it is the number, that's the index, and what? The elements. So we are trying to unpack it and saving it inside of a distinctive what? Variable. So we are going to console the log. We are going to console the log index and value now, and we are going to see what we are going to have. So can you see 0, Matthew, blah 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 blah. Very simple. So what we are going to now do is this. Instead of destructuring it inside of this for block here, I can destructure it here immediately. I can say, okay, this is what I want. I want index and I want what value. So I'm just going to destructure it immediately. Instead of doing it like this, I can just destructure it immediately. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come here. Let me copy this and I'm going to paste it here. Copy and paste. So here in this case, so I want the index. So the index is going to be index and this is going to be value, not name list and this table. So it's just going to be what? Value. So if you save this, let me comment this. If you save this now, this is what we have. Can you see? The same thing. The same thing. Let me remove the comma. Let me remove the comma. Let me also remove the comma here. So let's see what we have. Can you see? Index is 0, name, Matthew. Can you see it? The same thing. So we're able to achieve what we achieved for loop using what? For off loop. So please take note. So the reason why I introduced the structuring to you guys is because of what? This part here. Now this dot entry actually creates a key value pair. So the key value pair, can you see it? So in this case now, it consists of what? A number and what? A string. So with this dot entry, I can be able to get the index and the index of the elements of the array. So I can get both the index and the element. So all I just have to do is to destructure it here. You can decide to do the first method by destructuring it inside of the for off block. But you can just destructure it immediately here. It's as simple as that. So do you get it now? Very, very, very simple. So it's not difficult. It is very simple. So go over the video, listen to the watch the video over and over again, then you will understand it. So we have covered a lot today. So we'll meet again tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to be looking at introduction to function, everything that we need to know in function. We are going to look at more array methods. Then we are going to look at object as well. There are a lot of things that we are going to look at in the coming week. We are going to look at introduction to function, different types of function, function declaration, function expression, arrow function, and we are going to do some things with it. And we are going to look at more array methods, such as for each and advanced aspect of and for each and what they call it again, reduce, map, filter. We are going to look at other complex methods too, and we are going to look at object, and we are going to do some examples with this, and we are also going to look at string methods. We are going to look at all the methods that we have on strings. Then afterwards, then we'll look at DOM, which is document object model. Then we will be working with our user interface. So we are going to build like 3 to 4 projects using DOM. We are going to build a guest game, a Ludo game, and one website. So please make sure you understand everything that we have done so far, starting from HTML to CSS and now to JavaScript. Is very, very important. So please watch the video over and over until you have 100% understanding of what the topic. Please, it's very, very important. So till we meet again in our next class, do have a lovely day.